Okay, let's talk about the consulting world, because as we know it, it's on the verge of a massive, fundamental breakdown. And I'm not just talking about AI making things a little bit faster. I mean a complete reinvention of what value even means. So today, drawing on some really sharp analysis from board advisor Liz Henderson, we're going to break down why that old playbook is completely obsolete and explore what's rising up to take its place. This quote right here just nails it. It's so important to get this straight from the start. This isn't some minor upgrade. We are not talking about a productivity boost. We're talking about the entire operating model, the very foundation of the consulting industry becoming obsolete. And that's the huge shift we're digging into. So, to really understand where we're going, we first have to get honest about where we've been. Let's pull back the curtain on the old consulting model, what it was really selling, and why its foundations are just crumbling as we speak. You know, for decades, when a company hired a big consulting firm, they weren't just buying a slide deck. They were really buying three key things. First, access to expertise they just didn't have in-house. Second, the appearance of rigorous data-driven analysis. And third, maybe the most important of all, the ability to transfer accountability for a tough decision. It was basically a way to de-risk a huge bet. I love this comparison because it's so vivid. The old way was like a battery farm. You scaled by throwing more bodies, more junior consultants at a problem, and billing for every single hour. But the new way? It's all about intelligence and reuse. You scale through better systems and better data, and you monetize the actual outcome, giving clients the confidence they need to make the right call. And here is where the whole thing just falls apart. See, that old model only worked because gathering information and doing basic analysis was slow and expensive. But now, an AI can do what used to take a team of consultants weeks. You know, the discovery, the initial analysis, in just a few hours. The entire value proposition just evaporates. Okay, so if the old model is broken, what's next? Well, the answer seems to be a totally new kind of paradigm. Let's call it the always-on consultant. It's a completely different way of thinking. So here's the big idea. Picture an AI that acts as the very first point of contact. It actually engages with the client, figures out what the real problem is with incredible precision, and starts pulling together all the relevant data and patterns. So by the time a human consultant actually joins the conversation, all that groundwork is already done. They can step right into a focused, high-level strategic discussion. Now, this new workflow is just fascinating. I mean, look at this. The AI handles the first four absolutely critical stages: the intake, gathering all the context, shaping the problem, and even delivering some preliminary solutions and options. The human expert, they only come in at the very end, at step 5. Their job isn't the grunt work anymore. It's to validate, to apply wisdom and judgment, and ultimately, to own the accountability. It completely flips the script. And what you're left with is this really profound role reversal. The AI is doing the heavy lifting of thinking and analysis, but at a massive scale. And that frees up the human experts to focus on the things that are, irreplaceable, that nuanced judgment, that real human accountability, and building genuine trust with the client. Now, a shift this huge doesn't just change workflows. It completely changes the economics. It changes the money. This new reality is creating entirely new kinds of firms and, of course, totally new ways of getting paid. And this is the unavoidable conclusion, right? If an AI can do weeks of discovery and analysis in the time it takes you to grab a coffee, then the billable hour just makes no logical sense anymore. How can you possibly justify charging a day rate for that? The old financial engine of the entire consulting industry is officially broken. So what replaces it? Well, it looks like 3 main models are starting to emerge. You've got the subscription retainer for that always-on advisory. You've got pay per outcome, where you pay a fixed price for a very specific result. And then you've got a hybrid of the two. But the key thing they all have in common? They shift the focus away from paying for time and toward paying for value. And this shift is probably going to create 3 new kinds of consulting firms. First, you'll have your productized firm, which wins on speed and volume, offering pre-built AI solutions. Then you'll have the high-judgment boutique, the small elite shops for those really complex, board-level problems where trust is everything. But the real game changer? It's this third one, the platform orchestrator. That's the one that combines the AI, the human experts, and partners into something brand new. And that is where the biggest disruption and the most value is going to be. So, what does this all mean for you? Look, this is not just some trend to watch from the sidelines. This new reality demands that leaders, boards, and really anyone who buys consulting services needs to start asking some very, very different questions. And let's be crystal clear. The hardest problems here are not about the technology. The tech is actually the easy part. The real challenge is human. How do you take a senior partner's 30 years of gut feeling and turn that into a playbook an AI can use? Who's actually accountable when an AI helps shape a recommendation that goes wrong? And how do you stand out when all your competitors are basically using the same underlying AI tools? So here's the bottom line. If you're a leader, if you're a buyer of these services, this is not just some interesting industry trend. This is a direct governance issue that is on your desk right now. The way you buy and manage external advice has to change starting today. So you need to start asking some tough questions. The next time a polished slide deck lands in front of you, you should ask, how much of this was generated by an AI? And way more importantly, which human expert in the room is putting their name on the line and is accountable for validating it? And here's the one you need to ask your finance team. Are we paying these massive day rates for genuine, irreplaceable human judgment? Or are we still paying premium prices for a process that a machine can now do faster, cheaper, and maybe even better? And that leaves us with this final, really powerful idea. The real story here isn't that AI is coming to replace consultants. No. The real story is that AI is acting like a truth serum for the entire industry. It's exposing all the parts of the old consulting model that were never really about deep expertise, but were actually about inefficient processes and, well, billable hours. And that simple fact changes absolutely everything.